Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new podcast, Sophisticated Scoundrels, starring comedians Ari Spears and Gerard Guillory. Get ready to be entertained and enlightened by highly intellectual banter and some straight stupid shit. There'll be at times very intriguing and well thought out banter. Other times there'll be just fart jokes, hence the name, Sophisticated Scoundrels. Now sit back, relax, buckle your seatbelt, and get ready for a wild ride like a motherfucker. Notice I didn't say motherfucker with the ER or TH. Well, it's because I'm black, and so is Gerard and Aries, so we say motherfucker. But to our white brothers and sisters, feel free to join in. You too can be part of this motherfucker. You see what I did there? Motherfucker.
Yo, what's good? What's good? What's good? Welcome. Part two, episode 2, rather, right?
Yeah.
Sophisticated Scoundrels. Myself, Ari Spears, comedian Gerard Guillory.
Yes, sir.
Something I wanted to talk about, man. Great documentary. And I remember on the ride in, we was talking about movies versus documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, again, I'm a fan of anything entertainment, but I don't consider myself a historian of any kind, but anything I can get lost in a film or a great documentary, I'm with it.
I said it before, I don't think you can beat a good documentary. And I'm not being specific about what it has to be about. You know what I mean? Like the good, when it's done like it's supposed to be done,
right.
I could watch a doc on anything.
And you said you're more of a doc guy than a movie dude, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point in life, man.
Well, that's not to say that if he and I converge and have a meeting of the minds to discuss a good movie worth talking about, we certainly won't do it.
Absolutely.
But I saw a great documentary, and usually, I feel like Showtime has stepped its game up because it always felt like HBO was always the big cable bully on the block.
Right.
But Showtime has really come through with some high quality shit. Matter of fact, we're gonna probably be discussing 2 great documentaries from Showtime. One called The Supreme Team, about 2 brothers out of New York, produced by Nas. A documentary produced by Nas about 2 brothers, Supreme Griff, and I forget the other one's name. I know I got it.
Was it not what was his name? Not Gerald.
We're going to get it. We'll figure it out.
And they know.
Yeah, they know.
Y'all know.
So that and New York City Point Guards, about New York City and the basketball era that's responsible for a lot of the point guards. And again, we're talking about double words. What I love about that so much is a playoff of New York street vernacular. Yo, what up, God?
Yes, sir.
What up, son? Yo, what
son?
up, kid? Yo, what up, God? Yep. Done. But it also means it in the biblical sense. These dudes was gods, man.
Yeah.
So I dug that. I dug that title. But I want to jump right into Supreme Team. And one of these dudes was doing 32 years.
Yes.
I'm almost convinced you have to have a certain mentality. You have to be built with a certain psyche to say to yourself, is the risk worth the reward? And certainly in the drug game, there's really only 2 endings. Jail or death.
Right.
Like the mafia. Jail or death. Don't too many motherfuckers get out of that alive.
Right.
And I'm just going, as much as I love pussy, I would never want to put myself in a position where I can't get any.
Man.
And 32 years is a long time. I don't know if you've ever been locked up. I've been locked up for 30 minutes.
Right.
And thought the world was coming to an end.
Yeah. Because
32 years.
And think about it. And the shorter your stint, you're not thinking about having sex with women. You're thinking about not having sex with men.
Right.
Like,
or not being sexed with.
There's nothing sexy at all about jail on any,
right.
Especially when you're there for a short period of time, right?
Right.
When you're just in and out of there, just waiting on the people to come down and take care of the thing, and I got to stay here for this short amount of time. No, I don't know how you prepare. I have a cousin. I have several family members who have done very.
You black nigga, we have a history.
Yeah, the man. That's all. That's why I always like to say that's our people.
Right.
Whether you claim them or not, they loaded with that's all our cousins and nephews and nieces and aunties and uncles and so forth. But I'm not positive, especially when we're talking about the era from Supreme Team.
Right.
Based in, and we talked about this before on the other podcast about, the crack era and how different selling crack was than what was hot in the streets prior to crack, right? There were heroin and cocaine, and they had a very particular audience, the people who wanted to buy it, right? Cocaine was for very wealthy people, and the heroin trade, you couldn't just go and find somebody who sold heroin so that you could set up shop. Everybody who sold it either were part of one network or the other, but there were no lone wolves like crack.
Right.
So I'm not sure that a 15-year-old boy understood that you could potentially either die today or lose your freedom for the remainder of your life at this time.
Have you ever been locked up?
I've been in a holding cell. You were with me, motherfucker.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
In Oakland one time.
Oh, now here comes the funny visual.
Matter of fact,
I remember when you got arrested.
Look.
I remember when you got arrested.
Look.
And I saw you handcuffed to the desk. And it felt like a scene out of a movie, nigga. You just looked at me, no words, with your handcuffed to the drawer. And you just looked and went, like, can you believe this shit?
Come on. I told you, look, the whole time dude is putting the cuffs and stuff on me. He said, hey, is that Aries Spears? Like, yeah, that's Aries. Say something.
Hilarious.
Yeah. And you saw that. That was 2-3 out.
Right.
Matter of fact, he released me on, was it?
On
recognizance. The time before that was something very, very similar to that, but I had to go downtown Atlanta. I had been at a pool party and I was thrown in the pool. Right before it ended, I got pushed in the pool. So I had on some nylon sweats and a T-shirt and a Morehouse cap. And so when I got to the cell, I was still kind of wet. I had my glasses on. I had a goatee and a Morehouse hat, and it was loaded. It was 100 dudes in there, and I just found a place to stand. And I was trying not to do a B-boy stance, but I folded my arms.
Right.
And I just kind of held my thing, and so nobody messed with me, but they started calling me Spike Lee and college. Hey, Spike Lee, it's a spot over here, Spike Lee. You come sit down over here. I'm like, nah, I'm chilling.
Let me ask you, when you did that, because anytime, and I had, I've been arrested once or twice, and it was always obviously some silly shit that wasn't about nothing.
Right.
And I ended up being in a cell by myself, even though that it was this one time. But before I get to that, I want to ask you, does your frame of mind immediately go to survival mode or what the fuck?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was why I stood in the middle. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to make friends. I saw it. It was, I don't know. I don't think it was a Sunday night, but it was popping. It was jam-packed. As a matter of fact, on that one, it was me and 2 other dudes in a cell in Atlanta, Georgia that summer. It was super hot. And because it was hot, they left the cell door open. And the other 2 dudes kept poking their face out. And the COs or whatever, they came out there about 3 times and said, man, y'all got to stay inside. Don't poke your face out here again. I'm going to move y'all. And of course, they did it. And then they put us in the same size cell, which was massive, with 400 dudes. Somebody's back there sitting down on the toilet, somebody's throwing up. Dudes, one guy came in and he knew exactly what you could tell the dudes who've been to jail a bunch. He came in and took one shoe off and laid on the floor and used his shoe as a pillow. There was the jailhouse attorney. Give me your, and this is in the 90s. Give me your calling card. I'm gonna call your wife for you. What's the number? And he dialed the number and he said the number as he did it. And every dude over here was memorizing the number. He called, yeah, your husband is drunk. You need to come down here and get him. And he said, man, your wife is on her way. And he passed out. And man, they banged his phone, his AT&T calling card or whatever it was. Yeah, so I saw all the games being run. I was like, nope, I'm gonna just hold fast. I'm gonna stay right here in the center, and if I get challenged about it, whatever, I'm just gonna stand on my two right here. But my stance made them say, I guess they were like, yeah, he's straight.
You know, I often at certain times when I see certain things, have to take a moment and thank my mother and father for raising me correctly.
Absolutely.
And making sure that I was put in a position where I would never have to experience that kind of life. Mm-hmm. And this is partly why I thought the title Sophisticated Scoundrels was interesting, because I've never been fully one way. Mm. You know, I don't ever claim to be a street dude, a tough guy. That's a certain mentality. That's a certain different movement.
Right.
But I'm not a square either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not straight Poindexter. I didn't wear a pocket protector and was straight A student. I was somewhat in the middle.
Right.
You know, I was part Huxtable, part Evans family. Mm-hmm. I grew up poor enough and had enough, mice and roaches in my house, and living in poor conditions that I understood, or I had a taste of what was called street life.
Right.
But I also, eventually, when I moved to New Jersey, moved to a place where me and my sister had our own bedroom, and we had more than one room where a TV sat.
Right.
And my mother made us do book reports and read. So I call it the Will Smith gene. You know, Will ain't so thuggish that he's DMX, but he ain't fucking, Poindexter either.
Right.
He's cool in the middle.
He's West Philly and Bel Air.
There you go.
That part.
So I always was just like, for you to be in a place where to use one shoe as a pillow, or stand a certain way, or stand in a certain section of the room, of the cell, that's a survival technique that I'm glad I never had to learn. Because again, that mentality that, you accept that that's your surrounding and that's your upbringing. It's not something to be commended.
Well, you look at the guys who go and do long stints, or just to be in trouble, and then to come back to the neighborhood knowing that people look up to you based on the kind of things that you do, and you don't give some sort of admonishment like, bro, that's really not what you want, man.
Right.
Dude, it's almost summertime, dude. You don't want to be in there for 3 months. You're going to come out when it's time to go back to school, bro.
Right.
There's no females. Your mama and them need your rent money. Your mother needs your help. Who's going to watch your little brother, right? No, they're not saying that. It becomes this, it's like college if you live that life. Remember, it's a notch on your belt. It's like going to, like what Bishop Don Juan say about Pimp of the Year, who has the largest stable, who was seen at the fights. You need to be at these events, and that will establish your order in where you sit socially. And it's very similar for street dudes with jail time and prison time. And, if you listen to dudes, I always say the guys who spend the most time at funeral homes and court still don't have a suit. It'd be a dude in there defending his whole freedom with a Wu-Tang t-shirt on. Like, bro, you do know wearing a suit matters in this particular place. Y'all live that life, so you lose your friends all the time, and y'all can't go to the funeral home with a suit on, with a cool dress shirt or something. Y'all just show up smelling like weed. Like, it just becomes very, very customary. I'm saying, when you live that life, like somebody, and we start to see that in this environment with the internet, you got a lot of people who have spent time in prison, did something to change their life, and now they have these channels on YouTube and in these other spaces where it's all about warning, like, dude, I promise you it's not worth your 10 years. You don't want to go. Y'all think going to the feds is sweeter than going, dude, they don't have a parole. You're going to have to do the whole 10.
Well, at the very beginning of this, LL Cool J, I love that moment when LL Cool J is looking at the footage that Nas had of him at, these guys' birthday party.
Right, performing, rocking
and
out.
yeah, and of course, when you're young and you're poor, as they said, the glamour is in the fact that these guys got money.
Mm-hmm.
They get all the girls. Look at how they dress. They got the flyest whips. And to a young kid coming up poor with nothing to eat and being the man of the house at 13 years old,
right?
It's not just a fly look and a status symbol, but it's a way to survive.
Right.
And so, again, I've never been faced with those kind of decisions. So I'm looking at it from more of a rational point of just going, that's wrong. You're pumping poison into the community. You're killing your own people. I could come up with all the talking points that we know are deemed to be correct. But to be young and want to be glamorized, and when status means everything when you're young, you go, how do you fight that? And the one thing that blew me away, and this is where I go, maybe this is some street shit, I just don't know. But when these guys would go, man, I had several homes. I had all the latest Benzes or the BMWs. And maybe you can educate me on this. Maybe you know the answer to this. I'm sitting here going, from a person that don't know nothing about that life, how do you go into a dealership and buy a brand new Mercedes? And I don't know what a Mercedes ran in the 80s, but let's just say $50,000. How are you buying homes? How are you doing this? Because if you're doing it with straight up cash, I would think red flags go up. If you do it legitimately through paperwork, you don't want that, because now your name is on shit. How are you able to pull that off?
Well, there's a thin line. If you go back to Scarface, remember how they were depositing the money in the movie Scarface? In Glad 10-gallon garbage bags, just funnily, just walking, 50 dudes walking in with a giant thing. Well, that's when, remember again, I hate to, everything in America always, especially when we're talking about money and anything else in America, it always comes back to race. Remember, all that stuff was acceptable until black people start showing up with it. Now you have to have, now it's a red flag, right? So yeah, there are ways for it to be made. Remember, the car dealer wants the car to be sold. He'll fix some paperwork for you to do that.
Legally?
I'm saying, remember, he's going to pay his taxes. And he's cleared room. Hey, man, we got to make room for the 1982s. The 1983 Chevys are coming in. Yeah, we definitely got to clear this space. Yeah, they made it happen. Remember, that's how those dudes were doing. There was one way or another. Remember, you put it in somebody else's name. You got payments. We can make payments on that thing all day long. I could buy it cash today. I just don't feel like it. But I could bring y'all $200 a month because I got money literally stacked to the ceiling. I'm talking about ways for it to happen.
Right.
But then you also have car theft rings. Remember, in Menace to Society, where you steal the car, you do something with the plates, now it's clean. Remember in with Ace, Paid in Full. Remember when Wood Harris goes to get the car, he's like, man, it's all straight? Yeah, it's all straight. He gives him the key, gives him the bag, and they're going about their business. So remember, when you got a lot of money, a way will be made. When you have a lot of cash money, I
would think that with that much cash, especially on a home, if you go, look, I'm going to buy this whatever $1 million home,
the $40,000.
You walking in there with cash?
Well, remember, those things a lot of times they would be placed in other people's names. That's why when the RICO Act comes down, they come and get all those people. You put that house in your grandmother's name or whatever, and again, however you take this cash and convert it to a cashier's check for her to have her name on it, and she lives somewhere else that you pay for. That's her only involvement was that her name was on the house. So there's, like I said, they know how to run the business. And remember, it's not going to be them. It's going to be somebody higher up, the guy who washes the money. He's going to tell you exactly how to make that happen. Man, we get you some brand new today.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's stuff that just comes with the life. And you think about somebody who robs and steals artwork or something like that. Remember, You got to have a fence. You got to have somebody who's going to buy that from you. And those people are the ones who can put you in line. You get ready to go on the run. You got a suitcase with $1 million in it, but nobody saw you forever. Whitey Bulger. How do you convert that cash to be able to do? Having some cash can get you some cash. Think having the money and being a part of the underworld. Remember, you're going to be endorsed. And that's why I was talking about that heroin. You didn't just get a bag of heroin. You had to know everybody who sold heroin for you to be a heroin salesman versus a crack dude. You just go ring the bell. You get you a 20-pack. You cut it in half and you sell that 2 times. You keep going back. You got 20, 30,000 by Friday. And now you in them streets, and you're competing with people who were moving, all that other stuff, but it was locked in. And those people they're all underworld. Remember, the guy who's going to wash your money, he don't kill anybody, but he works with killers. The drug dealer, he don't wash money, but he works with killers and people who wash money. They all in the same group.
Now, I feel like I already know what your answer this is going to be, which is a sensible, which one would say it's a sensible fucking answer. Like, should there even be any other answer? But
I'm gonna go the whole other way.
Between the glamorization of the drug life and what it can get you, how quickly it can get it to you. If you could somehow, because I say, look, man, obviously, if selling cocaine and crack was legal, every nigga in America would be rich.
It'd be Bitcoin. Every time you go to your DM and be like, hey, you interested in the 8-ball? No, stop bothering me. I blocked you already.
But if there was a way you could get past the
illegality,
not even the illegalities, but the moral, like you're killing your own people. You're pumping drugs in your own community. Your people are dying because of you. You're not the solution. You're the problem. If you can get past whatever that mental thing is, and drugs was legal in that way, would you do it? Knowing what it can give you and how quickly it could give it to you?
I'd sell opioids because it wouldn't be directly into... No, because again, I just like what you said about your parents. My mother always banged something into me, and me and my father even talk about it today, and that is moral, legal, and ethical. And we were told that from longer than I understood what those terms meant. Moral, legal, and ethical. And I have a moral compass that is outrageous. I stole some money. I found a $20 bill. I found $40 in a closet at my dad's house while my cousin was visiting. And we went and spent and bought, I took everybody to the movies and bought all this candy and whatnot. And later I was like, that was not found money. That was, and he knew I took it. My cousin, my older cousin.
It was his money?
It was his money.
Right.
And I was broken on the inside before it was discovered that I had taken it. So very early in life, I've recognized that ill-gotten gains through me. I don't want to judge what anybody else does, but I know that I can't prevail with things that I did not attain the right way.
So you can't use the, because, Supreme said, as I think most drug dealers' rationale is, they're going to get it from somebody. So why not me? See, why shouldn't I benefit? They're going to get it from somebody. That's not enough for you? That wouldn't be enough for you?
Again, no. Only because I would have already understood. And like I said, crack was different, man. But by the time, remember, because we grow up in the crack era. I remember when I moved away from Houston, I was playing football and everything. I moved away. I went to high school somewhere else. I ended up in Atlanta. I graduated high school there. While I was when I was a freshman in college, I was back in Houston messing with this girl, and there was a store. I was 19 at the time. There was this store that would sell us alcohol, right? So I was closer to the store, and I was going to go by my buddies, man. So I stopped to get a 16 ounce of Miller Lite. And I ran into a dude I played high school football with, man. He was in front of me in line. We slapped hands and hugged, man. I haven't seen him. I had to leave the team when I moved away. I hadn't seen him in all this time, man. And he showed me his car. I saw his car key was snapped in half. He was like, man, dude, can you bring me around the corner? I broke my car key. I said, yeah, man. As soon as I bring my stuff up, man, he got in the car. And I'm stupid, 19. I cracked the beer open, man, and put the car in gear, and I go around, I get to the stop sign, and I do a rolling stop and make a right turn. He's like, yo, man, you got to stop at the motherfucking light, man. I said, what's up, man? I looked over. I'm driving, right? So I look over, man. He holds the largest bag of crack ever. This dude was a star football player, and now I'm riding around with life in the passenger seat. It was all I could do. My legs are shaking. I'm not the guy. If you got crack, you don't want to ride with me.
So you didn't want to go pull over and go, nigga, get out?
I couldn't do that. We were just going right there.
Right.
I could see where we were going, but you know how long that got. It was like the hallway in The Shining. It's like I think I gotta stop and get gas again. Like, why won't we get there? Yeah, it was like a mirage. Like, get up out of my car, man. I'm not good in the vicinity of it. No cocaine products or byproducts. You can't. If you got them around you, I'm not gonna judge you, dude. But don't let me see it. It's gonna ruin.
I thought it was kind of interesting because Supreme said that growing up, he had a solid childhood. I'm going, well, why the fuck are you selling drugs?
That money. What we also see in these docs, right, is that the addiction, the worst addiction to drugs, is very similar, if not lesser, than the addiction of watching that money come in like that. You know what I'm saying? You didn't do much of anything. Your effort was a risk, but really you've been kicking it, smoking trees, hanging out with your boys all day, and came up on 10 grand in a couple of hours. When your cousin and them cut yards today, they got $10 a yard, front and back. Like, you know the difference, and you see it coming hand over fist. It's an addiction, dude. It's why, remember how many movies you seen? We was like, we're going to do one last score. Oh, you already know.
Right.
You ain't doing no one last score.
Yeah, that's why I know I wouldn't be built for that, because I would be so nervous about one of the two outcomes, death or jail, where I would go, I think I would really be the guy to go, I don't have no problem getting out. You know, it's like that great scene in American Gangster when Denzel goes over to Singapore one last time, and the guy says, the guy that's selling him the blue magic, the most potent heroin ever, goes, it's not in my best interest to tell you this.
Right.
But maybe it's best to stop while you're ahead.
Right.
And then he goes, stopping, what he said, oh my God, quitting while you're ahead is not the same thing as quitting. And I'm just like, and even in the movie, when Denzel says to the Puerto Rican girl who he eventually marries, I got homes in several places here and there. I got a gazillion cars. I got money out the ass. How much more do you need? At the risk of
your life
or jail, which could be your life.
The same thing.
How much do you need?
That's the problem. See, again, you know, when you think about the guy who says, I'm hustling because I have a baby on the way, my mom and them are struggling and whoop-de-whoop, and it's like, I get that, you know, but then here comes a bowling ball paint job with 18s in the back of it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, now we're past the need. We took care of rent, mom's rent and mortgage for the year yesterday afternoon. The rest of this is about balling and stunting, and remember that's kind of always been my thing. Like, at what point can you draw the line? But again, it's like, if you get good at something, you want to keep doing. I don't know, man. Like, it's a crazy thing. Even the idea of, you know, especially what we know about crack. What we know about Ronald Reagan and Oliver North and Freeway Rick, and how crack actually ends up here and then make people feel bad that they're pumping the community. Remember, if I just told you crack, you wouldn't be mad that I was the messenger. I didn't bring in a kilo. Right. I have a $10 rock in my hand. You know what I'm talking about? And now I'm being accused of destroying a community that y'all left. Somebody pointed out something yesterday I was listening to. How isn't it peculiar that AK-47s and automatic weapons came in at the same time as crack? Remember when we looking at American Gangster, you know, that 38 and that 45 was as heavy as it was gonna be.
Right.
But when that real dope came, here come And remember, every major city has a story about a train that has a bunch of automatic military rifles on it. How really? It's just a train? Okay, so it was all set and designed. I don't know that I would want to put the destruction of the community on the dude who sold, $10,000 worth of crack when there was $1 billion sold.
Okay, but if you're looking at it from that standpoint, then let me go back again. If you don't want to put the blame on that guy, then do you expect him to feel morally wrong for doing what he's doing?
Not necessarily by real actual morals. I mean, but you're operating on the other side of the law. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're supposed to at least have an understanding of that. Whether you respect it or not, you have to understand. That's why I would say street code are the laws that are determined that are in direct opposite accordance of the code of law. And that's our problem now, is that we still operate on a street code that doesn't have to do with today's code of law. That's what Nipsey was talking about how dude get out of prison, send him on a mission, and have them jammed up, because when you sent us on the mission that y'all used to do, they didn't have video cameras every damn where. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're operating on an outdated street code. So I'm just saying, like, like I told you, we were told, me and my brother, moral, legal, and ethical. So I would have an issue because it was illegal, not necessarily because it was immoral. Because I understand drugs in this country go hand in hand. Language got not to shift us, but remember, Joe Kennedy, right, was talking about the president's father. President Kennedy's father made his fortune. They say he was a bootlegger, right? He was a bootlegger. Now, we know NASCAR was created because those guys were running moonshine, and so they doing Dukes of Hazzard. They souped their cars up so that they could outrun the police. But this is before plastic bottles. So y'all want us to believe that y'all were jumping bridges and doing all of that in big box Chevys, big Buicks and Edsels, and didn't have no weed in there? Y'all didn't have any cocaine? Remember, they had cocaine in the elixirs and in Coca-Cola. So what's the difference between a bootlegger and a drug runner? Wouldn't it be different if they didn't call him a bootlegger, but he ran cocaine? I refuse to believe a dude did all of that with just some whiskey in the back. If it were me, I would pad the whiskey bottles with a big bushels of marijuana to make sure the bottles didn't break, if not coming up on something else. I refuse to believe that. I'm saying, here we go with language. Drugs in this country, they're significant. We talk about the Hispanic community. Remember, all of that is illegal because they were trying to make them look like they were crazy people, because that's where all the bud was coming from. So it's got to be illegal.
I feel like I'm literally taking a class with a professor. So much of this, I just, unaware.
It's an absolute fact. These are facts, man. And now, again, what I just said about bootlegger, I don't want to be on record saying that I know that they were running cocaine. I'm just saying, making somebody a bootlegger sounds way. Remember, we watched TV shows. Right. I watched Dukes of Hazzard, and we loved that. We loved it, and we loved NASCAR. And wouldn't it be interesting? We found out NASCAR was based on drug trafficking.
I'm learning for the first.
I'm saying, like, wouldn't it be? I'm just saying it sounds better. Language, it sounds better. I'm saying drugs have always been a part of what's going on in this economy. Always.
There was a clip, I think it was like my first time, where I did Vlad and I had on the red V-neck t-shirt, and I said, we somehow got into the discussion of race, and I said, bravo to white America. Y'all have pulled off the greatest Jedi mind trick in history. This idea that you have painted the black people, but specifically black men, to be these scary figures that you got to put away the kids and lock the doors, when historically you guys have been the biggest murderers on the planet. From slavery to the assassination of our leaders, church bombings, killing our women, our children, rape. lynchings, dogs, water hoses. I go on and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always watch some of these documentaries, especially when dealing about race, how, and it makes me think a little bit Denzel, Malcolm X. You got to take what the white man says and turn it against him.
Mm.
You got to use it against him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going, when the police in this documentary describe black communities as jungles and out of control wild animals, but yet the wildest animals in them jungles be y'all when you come in.
Be the police.
Be the police.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's amazing how, I don't know if it's just bold-faced arrogance or what you call that, where you are able to just look into a camera and say these things with no regard whatsoever to your part in any of it.
Right. It again, when you've been made to feel correct, that's what's so dangerous about this current environment. Like I said, nobody's going. Kyle Rittenhouse killed some people, and he ain't go to jail. And the next thing you know, he's on a speaking tour. You know what I'm saying? People are paying to hear him speak. So what does that do for the next guy?
Right.
January 6th, ain't nobody been charged properly. They doing 2 and 3 months and going home. What does that say? You know, it's not a deterrent for somebody else. And so, yeah, it makes sense that black people are 13, 14% of the whole population, but 50% of the prison population in the most incarcerated country on the planet. Yeah, it makes sense because y'all don't put yourselves in jail. I love documentaries. You ever see one of those docs where there's a killing in a nice community? Let me ask you this. You've heard this phrase before? That type of crime is not supposed to happen here.
Okay, either that or, they describe the killer as someone who they didn't suspect possible of being able to do that.
That's when they have to, when they finally get down. But
Right.
What do you insinuate? What can you infer from that type
quote,
of crime is not supposed to happen
it's
here?
supposed to happen in the niggas
It's
community.
supposed to happen, but not over here.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I was saying last week.
Right.
When it's okay for these things to happen around in other people's communities, then you be shocked when it happens. But it's imminent. If you don't get up off your ass to help make it stop where it's happening, eventually you're going to be the one to pay the piper. Remember Tupac said, we don't want to live next to the killer either. We don't want to live next to the killer either. Y'all act like we love living next to the killer. No, we don't. But why is our community left like this? Then let's look at gentrification. When you move, the last time I was in Chicago, we were there together. Again, I forget about this. We performed in downtown Chicago, and then they sent an old school limousine. It was like Mr. Drummond from Different Strokes. It was an old school limousine. And they sent a limo to take us to Vernon Hills, to the Zanies at Vernon Hills.
Do you know how long ago that was?
Yes, but watch this. I don't know if you remember this. We want to stop at a Popeyes to get some food. So we stop at the Popeyes and then we go to a convenience store. So Aries walking, I open the door, Aries walking. As soon as we walk in, a lady was in there and she had turned her back to the register, but faced us and stole some chips. The second we walked in, you remember that?
No.
Soon as I opened the door, the lady turned around trying to make sure, and she put a big bag of chips in her dress.
White lady?
No.
Black lady?
We're right downtown. We're right by Cabrini Green.
Okay.
Now remember, Cabrini Green is not Cabrini Green anymore.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it's a wonderful estate. It's $1 million property. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But before, this was jungle. So clearly it's not the space. It's when gentrification happens. When they move away, remember, they take not only the industry, the good school teachers, the good school, they take the factories, they take the police, they take the lights, they take the parks, they take all of that stuff away. And if you've ever played The Sims or any one of those city management games, you know you have to have a park over here. You have to have sidewalks. There are certain things that if you don't have, this community is going to crumble and it's going to become one of those places. And then they leave it to that. And then the people who have to police it, they act like for some reason, these are just terrible human beings that don't know how to behave. But it's like y'all took everything from here, bled it dry, and then you come and abuse the people. Oh yeah, and we'll drop off a train load of guns and some crack cocaine for y'all. So yeah, it's really foul that the cops would sit up and do that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like that, and I'm not a fan of y'all's mayor over there either. I don't like. I almost wanted to know why Nas put him in there. I do not like Mayor
Right.
Adams, man.
Right. That's the dude in New York, right?
That's the guy in New
Yeah.
York, the
Conservative.
former police officer.
Um,
We talking about defund the police. They gonna vote in a former police officer, and he is giving black people the blues out there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
two questions I
two
definitely
podcasts from now.
I definitely wanted to ask you. I remember my dad. I don't know if you remember this movie. Talk about again those kind of references. The Education of Sonny Carson.
Man, I saw the whole thing with foul. Yeah. I posted a clip of that not too long ago. So gangster,
Right.
man.
I remember my dad watched that movie, and it felt like not that gangs in the 70s, black gangs, didn't murder, but that wasn't their first option. It was to either beat you up, have a fist fight, or at the worst, a knife fight.
Yes. Hit with a stick.
Right. And certainly, you know, we wouldn't want, like you said with Tupac, we don't want to live next to the murderers.
No.
We don't want gangs. We don't want violence. We don't want the killing of our own people. But if you're gonna pick the lesser of two evils, can we go back to the 70s when niggas just beat each other up and stabbed each other, cut you?
Here we go again. It's proximity. Now I know that was not LA, but let's use LA as a sample. And for the LA gangsters, forgive me, because it's probably not going to be all that accurate. And I don't want to call the wrong street names or whatever. So I'm going to try to make these random.
This Fruit Loops, nigga.
Yeah, see,
the Fruit of the Looms, 87, nigga.
Matter of fact, we'll do letters.
Right.
If you were a part of the A gang, your rival was probably going to be the E gang. And y'all would traditionally fight somewhere around C Street. It's about proximity.
Right.
When nobody driving to go fight. This was all in your area. You, 3, 4, 5 streets down, those guys are together, 10 streets this way, and we gonna meet somewhere in the middle. And we walk to these, right? We know where there's a field where we gonna either play football or we gonna scrap. Where
Is it almost reminiscent of Michael Jackson's Beat It?
I would imagine so.
All right.
So
you see a group coming down the street, and then the other side is the other group.
And there's a little music playing.
Right.
Put on something we can fight to, Johnny.
Right.
No. Whip some ass. There you go.
Come on, sucker.
Turn it up. Yeah.
Switchblades.
But proximity. So the guys went to school together. They knew each other from playing sports and football, and they in the community. Remember, some of these guys are related. We just live in the same building. Remember, yours going to be New York and Chicago and Detroit and Philly. That's about the building. Or he stays on my block, and we grew up together. So it's going to be really about proximity, at which point we're not thinking about killing nobody. I just want to fuck you up so that because you had said X, Y, Z. Y'all thought y'all were better than us. And we going to be okay after that. You know, that's why I say if you go look, I said his name on the other podcast, man. Kev Mack does a wonderful job about the LA gangsters from all the gangs. And what's beautiful is that a lot of those original gangsters are around to tell their story because they were not a part of when that gunplay came in so heavy. And remember, when crack comes, remember what happened here in LA. The big thing why we found out about it around the country, for those of us who weren't living here, was some gangsters ran into each other at a movie theater in Westwood. And they got to some gun clapping, and a student from UCLA got shot. And now it's like, wait a minute. We were okay with all that killing in Compton, but not over here. And that went nationwide. She was murdered by a gang member. We've got to do something about this. That's what it was, right? But remember, those gangsters only left Compton and went to UCLA because crack provided enough money for everybody to be riding. So once we started riding, it changed the proximity. And we have more. Now, there's the American Gangster TV show. I forget this dude's name, but he was a gambler. And he said the coldest thing ever, man. And I don't mind sharing it. Hopefully it'll help somebody. We're talking about that jewelry, wearing all that jewelry. Say when you wear that jewelry like that, you're saying two things. Number one, I can afford it. And number two, I can protect it. See, we hear a lot about guys getting their chain snatched today. You forget when you buy that chain, what you're really saying is run up and try to snatch it. Because remember that's what it says to the dude who ain't got no chain. Them dudes are plotting on your chain. You supposed to know when you put the chain on and go to the event, you may have to die about it tonight. You're supposed to. That's what 50 and them understand that.
Right.
50 Cent and them, they know, you know what I'm saying? T.I. got the line about it, run up, reach up if you feel good about it. They know when you put the chain on. Some of y'all are wearing expensive jewelry, forgetting it's a dude who was just like you 2 days ago who didn't have one. He ain't got one now, and he's only angry with you because you got that thing shining in his face, and he already knows the fence who he could take that to and sell us for $50,000, $80,000 chain. I get 20 for it tonight. So you got to understand when you out here putting it in their face, you're not just telling them you can afford it. You're telling them that you're willing to defend it.
Now I got to ask you, because I've always been curious about this. I knew that in the 80s drug era, I knew what 80s was fashion-wise. And dudes that talk about chains and jewelry, you know, the big boom box that you needed 12D motherfucker D batteries for. Fucker D.
Radio.
You had the Shelto Adidas, you had the big rope chains, Run DMC. And the
Dookie.
Bigger, and the bigger your Dookie chain was the bigger your dick. You know what I mean? You had the 4 finger rings, you had the gazelles. You know,
fur, y'all had was that Max Julian? Y'all weren't wearing the Max Julian with the fur, the leather coat, the fur in the neck. Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about LA in the 80s, what the look was. Biggest thing I could think of is because of NWA, the Jerry curls. My question was this. You're from Houston. What was 80s Houston?
80s Houston
Texas.
was there was some Jerry curling going on, but we had Fila, but everybody calling it the Fila. You got them Fila eyes on. So yeah, it was that was when the nylon sweatsuit came through.
Right.
About 80, 85, 86. You know, it was hip hop. Yeah. You know, when hip hop touched down, and that's
but did Houston, because look, let's be honest, hip hop born out of the Bronx, New York, and up until, you know, New York was dethroned by the West Coast, you know, New York was king. 80s hip hop, 90s, you know, then came West Coast, they took a hold of it. Then the South took a hold of it.
And they ain't let it go.
Well, they ain't let it go, but now it more or less belongs to all the gremlins and the gargoyles that be on top of buildings in New York now. Niggas that look like Tim Burton Batman villains.
Hilarious.
But what was... I'm saying that to say, even when you mention Fila, okay,
New York.
Puma, Fila, Adidas, that's still New York. Did Houston have its own identity? Something that was known as Houston, Texas.
I mean, we still rock boots. You know,
like cowboy boots?
Yeah. But you weren't like going to the, you know, we talking about lizards and ostrich and, you know what I mean? Like you had to have the real deal. And it's still like that. But again, I was a young dude, man, when hip hop, I can remember where I was listening to Rapper's Delight, like 5, 6, 8 years before or whatever. I still, if you look at my Instagram stories, I posted a raw ass picture of Run D and J with no hats on. It's like a brown and white picture. It's old, man.
Oh, really?
I still love Run DMC like that, and I understand but when hip hop, again, that's a cultural thing. So whatever y'all were doing prior to, that's what's funny. Like, I would love to, it would be beautiful if we could do a documentary for people from New York so that they could see the way what y'all were doing affected the rest of the country.
Right.
So like I said, I'm from Houston. I agree with you. It begins in New York. The next thing that happens is that there's California involvement. And between then And the next hip hop group, the first hip hop group to go national and somewhat global that was not out of New York or L.A.
Ghetto Boys
was the Ghetto Boys. Was my guy Brad Jordan and Willie D.
My man Willie D.
They did that.
Shout out to Willie D. Anytime I come to Houston, he showed me that love, man.
Hey, man, shout out to them boys. But I still don't know Willie D, but like I said, I went to junior high with Brad Jordan, man. So, and had no idea that my favorite rapper was my good friend at Persian Junior High. So, but the influence was the same. Whatever we could get our hand, and that's why me and my two dudes, we wanted to rap. Jimmy Barron was the DJ, and me, God bless the dead, my partner Charles, we were the rappers that we claimed that we were hip hop pioneers because we were from the South. And when there were hip hop events, we knew that we had to be there. We had to go and support to show that we had to be the dudes calling in to the radio. Say, hey, man, we want to hear Rockmaster Scott, DJ, pick up your phone up on the request line. Yeah, we had to call. So we were like, nah, man. And it was funny. That was Jerry Smoking B. It was an AM station, just kind of like K-Day. And then years later to be doing shows, Jerry Smoking B in Atlanta, he was a radio guy and whatnot to push the culture. But yeah, we watching music videos and whatever we could see that, they had to have some rendition of it. And then again, Houston is the fourth largest city in the country. There's old money there. So we mentioned on the last episode, I said it twice about Facts of Life. Once you go back, the next time you see Facts of Life coming on, and by the way, my other answer, since you're asking me goofy about what goofy question about old white lady I smashed, it'd be Miss Garrett. And I'm going to tell you why. You go back and watch the beginning. Yeah. Go back and look at it. And that's her. You take the good, you take the bad. Look at Miss Garrett. She's wearing a velour Fila sweatsuit.
Really?
Yeah, she is. On the beginning. When the song is being played, it's like, so like I said, there's old money in Texas. Houston's the fourth largest city. So whatever that was going on, we had it. So that became part of the culture. But yeah, dudes were rocking Jerry curls. But don't lie, there was some curls going on in New York.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Gold teeth.
Yeah. Listen, niggerism is niggerism everywhere.
Global.
Something that got me, when Supreme and Prince, that was another guy's name, Prince.
Gerald,
we're talking about all the righteousness, the 5%ers, self-improvement, betterness, getting out of poverty. And I this is where I gotta say, I might be ignorant here, but I don't know if you know the answer to this. Are those the same guys as the Israelites, or is that totally different?
I don't believe so, but again, forgive me if not.
Okay, let's just say they aren't, because I don't know for sure.
I'm not sure, but we hear that. What's today's math?
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I find it somewhat of a contradiction when you're talking about righteousness and self-improvement and doing what's best for the community, but don't you dilute your message while at the same time you slanging weight in the community? How can you talk about self-righteousness and improvement while at the same time doing that?
Somebody, again, here we go again, though, back to race. Remember when the Italians, who were the Italians sold their stuff to us, but who were the Italian people who got high and drunk and lost their marriages because they were in the joy houses? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I only think that comes back to us. If you have where somebody in every community had been allowed to have an underworld that propelled their business class. You understand that? The Italians have wonderful, legitimate business based in what was going on in the mafia. And that was true for the Jewish mafia and every other ethnic group. When it gets to black people, it cuts off. Everybody goes to jail or dies as a drug dealer. But remember, Sammy the Bull Gravano was killing people, but he owned a construction company.
Right.
They tied into, they getting money off of every window in a 100-story building. They're parlayed it into some legitimacy. And I'm saying that if those black crack dealers, if Rick Ross and these notable Big Meech, and then were able to parlay onto the other side with their drug money and land like what we know about the Kennedy.
It makes it okay.
It made it okay for the Kennedys. That's what I'm saying. Why do black people get held at a different standard? Remember, it's different now that the drug is opioid. Look who's selling it, CVS.
I'm not saying that we should be held to a different standard at all, but is that a standard we want to be held to? Is that
what I'm saying?
If we're talking about righteousness and doing what's right for the community,
somebody has to. Again, if the sample is that you do dirt until you can clean it up, and that's what the sample is here. If Robert Kennedy's daddy was a cocaine dealer or a bootlegger, then you clean that up in the sins of the father get taken care of by the actions of the son. And if somebody has to bite the bullet, then let dad and them do it. And then the next generation will be the ones who are out here, doctors and attorneys, because we got to go to school and we were able to be the ones to clean the money up. And then we could leave the underworld behind. And that happened in every community other than ours. And that is by design. Every time we get to do what everybody else do, the rules change right then.
Right.
You got Young Thug and them sitting up on RICO charges, but they gave 2 years in prison to a guy who stormed the Capitol, but he's a Proud Boy member who did all of this conspiring. No RICO charges for that group. And I'm not saying whatever Young Thug, I don't know Young Thug's situation. I'm just saying, look how quick they are to throw it on us when you got 800 people, y'all not ringing in a conspiracy. When in the crack game, remember, they put Rayful Edmonds' mama in prison. Rayful Edmonds is a big dealer out of DC. They gave him life, and he should be getting out soon. Another wonderful documentary. They were doing dirt, but instead of just taking the guy who they knew was the kingpin, they put his mom and his sister and his cousins and his neighbor. Everybody got to go. When it's them, it's lone wolf. I'm just saying, I try to live a righteous lifestyle, and I understand I'm not perfect, and it is not beyond me to do something away from righteousness to preserve the things that I love. I am that dude. I would cross over that line in a second for my mother, my brother, my niece, and my father, and the rest of my family. And I'm a man of conviction that I would go sit down for it, it might cost me my life, but that's the kind of dude I am, to make sure that the rest of the people I care about would be okay.
Right.
So I do understand with the question. I don't know if I answered it right.
So as long as your Genco olive oil helps the community,
hey,
it's okay. It's okay to embezzle and
except for that box. Don't open that box.
Right.
That's for
Right.
daddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this last thing that totally blew my mind when watching this. And again, when you talk about the allure of falling into that trap, when some of them guys would go, yo, we was making 20, 30,000 a day. Now, if you told me 20, 30,000 a month, I'd go, wow. If you told me 20, 30,000 a week, I'd go, goddamn. But 20,000, 30,000 a day, I'm just going, how is that even possible? How many junkies are there for that to be a day? And I don't know if this is the best equivalent, but I think about as many times as you go in and out of the Lincoln Tunnel, from sunup to sundown, all them cars.
Right.
That money per day has got to be outrageous.
Right.
There's that many junkies.
Well, remember, they also had more than one spot. Yeah. Remember, crack was a monster. And
Right.
remember, that's the kind of drug, again, that people didn't know that it didn't take you but one time. And again, something I find, and I've been asking this because I've been alive the whole time, right? We were very young when crack kicked. I was 11 years old or whatever, and not sitting in the center of it, but close enough to it that prior to crack, America, if you look at the disco documentaries and whatnot, they'll tell you between 1977 and 79, America had really just found out that cocaine was not a social drug like that. That, remember, all during Studio 54 and all that, the doctors and the judges, everybody who had money tooted a little coke on the weekend. That's what Richard Pryor said, talking about he did a little cocaine. You know, never seen nobody did a little coke. They all did cocaine. What they found out toward the end of the 70s was that, dude, that shit is terribly addictive. You had people who were at the top of the game that's some of the folk we pass under the freeway today. Wow. So, and it was very, very, very expensive. So isn't it peculiar that the very next thing that happens is a cheap version of that?
With more potency.
More potent, but just cheaper. Just the mere fact that the world just found out, don't touch that. It's not good for you. And they made a more potent one for $5 and it just landed in our community. So that's why I remember even the white kids who would come, you got to watch those YBI, the Butch Jones, the documentaries from all of the D-boys from Maserati Rick, that when the white kids would come from the suburbs down there to cop on the weekend, when the police would come, they wouldn't arrest them. They just know why they were down here. Get out of here. Get out of here. What you doing down here? No, we made the wrong turn. Yeah, get out of here. They would let them go because they knew what it was, but it was drawing people from other communities. You had to come down here and be in that line. And it was on and popping. It was on and popping. They set everybody up for a bad thing, man.
You know, one of the things you're gonna, and maybe I should already know this, but this is really like a new teammate. So we just playing ball for the first time until we really start to figure this out. But I know that when fucking with Andy Steinberg, we would have a plethora of things we were gonna discuss, and we would usually discuss them and get through all of them. And still make that hour or go a little over.
Right.
But we want to really run a tight ship here. And the same thing. We got a list of shit we want to talk about. But
I'm long-winded.
No, I wouldn't even say I wouldn't even say long-winded. He know how to play ball. And believe me when I say that's not to say my other partner doesn't.
And shout out
different styles. It's just different styles. And this motherfucker know how to create his own shot. So when you playing with a Dominique Wilkins and you favor yourself for Jordan or vice versa, they play different.
You saw he made me the one with the curl.
He just said he niggas had curls, didn't he?
You made me the one with the Duke kid. I'll be Dominique, Southwest Atlanta, you know.
So yeah, man, we didn't even really get to discuss everything on this that we could have. We left a lot of meat on the bone. But you know, we'll figure it out. This is only Ep 2. I hope by Ep 22, what's the 70s Knicks? Earl the Pearl Monroe, and who? Walt Frazier.
Hilarious.
Maybe we can Walt Frazier, Earl the Pearl, this shit. I hated to go to that reference, but I know you're a 70s dude.
What was Jordan's coach? Jackson.
Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson was on that squad, wasn't he?
Yes.
How about it?
That's the team that won the championship.
They won the championship. How about it?
So yeah, man, next week, I think we're going to talk about this New York City point guards. And I don't know that that'll take an hour, but if it do, there it is.
It probably will. That's the same crack era. Yeah. Put some sandals on, make some tea. We'll be here.
Hey, real quick, give out your social media handles.
You know what? Yeah, I'm at Gerard Guillory on everything. That's GerardGuillory on everything.
On everything. And yeah. I'm, of course, Ari Spears, Instagram under Ari Spears, Patreon, Ari Spears, YouTube, Ari Spears. And there it is, man. I don't know if it's in bad form to give out my other podcast, but
man,
we trying to grow.
Man.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you're on there, you'll shout this one out. Like I said, shout out Andy, man. This is
Spears and Steinberg, available on all streaming platforms, just like this one. See you motherfuckers next week.
Word.